So now I'd like to introduce the basics of the Chinese writing system. As the textbook points out, the Chinese writing system is made of various components that are arranged in blocks, in squares, in a square shape, in various arrangements. And the textbook starts by introducing some of those basic components to you, but I think it's more useful to begin with the basic strokes. If you have the most basic thing to say and to name, it will help you retain what you're writing a little bit better. So these are the names of the 6 basic strokes that will help you write almost everything. The first one is hung, which is horizontal, always going from left to right. No matter what you think, it has to go left to right. Hung, hung. It can rise a little bit as it goes towards the right. Hung. In formal writing, then there's a little bit of weight at the beginning and the end. The next one, shu, is vertical, and it is always vertical, straight towards yourself. So the hung can be a little bit rising, but the shu is always vertical. It will help your character to look right. Hung, shu. Pie is the next one. It goes from the upper right to the left. It should be written with a tip flowing out of it. The only stroke that ever goes leftward from right. Pie, it looks like the mustache of a French person named Pierre. Pie, pie, na, goes from upper left to lower right and comes up with a kind of point, if you can manage it, towards the horizontal direction. Na, left to right, downward. T is an uptick, starting from lower left, upper right, and it has a tip, it lifts at the end. And dien is a very small stroke. It can be written in a number of different ways, but it's usually a kind of dot. Dien, dien, dien. These are the 6 basic strokes. Hung, shu, pie, na, ti, and dien. Go means a hook. So you can have hung go, shu go, and so on. Ja, ja means a break. Ja, hung ja, shu ja, ja. Xie is a diagonal line. Sometimes this is used instead of na to describe a stroke. If, for example, with xie go, xie go. Wan is a bend that is not a break. Shu wan go, shu wan go. With these basic strokes, you can write just about any part of a component. Okay, so the textbook introduces about 24 components, and I feel like it's very helpful for you to have these components, so I'm asking you to learn these. We're going to use the names of the basic strokes to write them. So the first one is ren, which means person. By the way, that's not my name. It's not this ren. It is written with a pie, na. Ren, pie, na. Person. The next one is kou, mouth. And it's written in this order like this. Shu, shu. Hung ja, hung. You need to write it in this order or it might not be recognizable to others. Shu, hung ja, hung. And the next character is shan, which means mountain. Shu, shu ja, shu. Notice we do the center first. It looks like a mountain. Shu, shu ja, shu. Looks like a mountain. The next character is shui, which means water. And it's written from the center first. Shu go, hung pie, dien na. Shui, shu go, hung pie, dien na. The next character is the character for the sun. Fourth tone. It's written from left to right. Shu, heng zhe, heng, heng, ri. The next character is the character for the moon, and it's written in this order. Pie, heng zhe, go, heng, heng, yue. Moon. Pie, heng zhe, go, heng, heng, yue. All right, the next character is the character for the earth, tu, and it's written like this. Heng, shu, heng. It's a depiction of something coming out of the horizontal earth, rising up out of the earth. Tu, heng, shu, heng. The next character is the character for tree. It is heng, shu, go, pie, na. Pronounced mu, a tree. It is the ground with the roots beneath it. Mu. The next character is the character for rain, yu. Heng, shu, heng zhe, go, shu, dian, 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 yu. Depiction of the raindrops falling out of the clouds. Heng, shu, shu, heng zhe, go, dian, 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 dian. The next character is the character for fire, and it's written in this order. Dian, dian, pie, na. And it looks a little bit like the flickering of the flame. Dian, dian, pie, na. The next character is the character for woman or female, and there's only one way to do this so that it looks right. Pie, dian, pie, heng. Any other way, it'll look unbalanced. Pie, dian, pie, heng. Female, nu. Okay, and now we have the character for door or gate, mun. Dian, shu, heng zhe, go, mun. It shows the two sides of the door swinging. Dian, shu, heng zhe, go, mun. Now we've finished 12 components. We have 12 more to go. The next of these is xin or heart. It's composed of dian, xie, go, dian, dian. So it shows the organ of the heart with its various blood vessels reduced to dots. Dian, xie, go, dian, dian. The next character is the character for ear. It's written in this order, written like this. Heng, shu, heng, heng, shu, heng, ear, r. The next character is eye, like eyeball. Shu, heng zhe, heng, 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 pronounced mu. It's a depiction of the eye turned sideways to fit the slats of bamboo that were originally used to write with. Mu, or eye. Shu, heng zhe, heng, heng, heng. The next character is the character for the hand, and it's written like this. You might be tempted to begin with a heng, but it is a pie. Pie, heng, heng, one, go. So you can see the 5 fingers, sort of. Pie, one, go, heng, heng. The next character is a character for fish, yu. And it begins with pie, heng zhe, shu, heng zhe, heng, shu, heng, heng. This heng represents the water it's swimming in, and the scales are somewhat represented. Pie, heng zhe, shu, heng zhe, heng, shu, heng, heng. The next one in this series is ma, or horse. It's written like this. Heng zhe, shu zhe, one, go, heng. You can see this is a remainder of the legs depicted and the hair of the mane and its back. Heng zhe, shu zhe, one, go, heng. All right, the next series begins with cha, or cart, or car, Any wheeled thing, anything that has a wheel in Chinese is called a che. Begins with a hung, pie zhe, shu, hung. You can see the two axles and the body of the cart. Hung, pie zhe, shu, hung. The next character is child, which can also mean seed or even master or sir in different contexts. Hung, zhe, one, go, hung, zi, pronounced zi, child or seed. The next character is the character for knife. It even looks like a big old Chinese meat cleaver. Hung, zhe, go, pie, pronounced dao, meaning knife, and it even looks like a big Chinese meat cleaver. Dao. The next character is the character for foot, and it is written like this. Shu, hung zhe, hung, which is the same as mouth, but you add to it shu, hung, pie, na, pronounced zu, foot. The next character is the character for gold or money, jin or even metal. It is written like this, pie, na, and then hung, hung, shu, dian, dian, hung. Probably originally a depiction of the furnace in which it was smelted. Pie, na, hung, hung, shu, dian, dian, hung. And then this character, the last of the 24, is the character for jade, yu. It is written like this, hung, hung, shu, hung, dian. The character for jade, hung, hung, shu, hung, dian, yu. Okay, now we're going to talk about radicals. The components that you've learned are used as radicals very often. A radical is the root of a word. It indicates the significance of the meaning, at least in some point of the development of the character or the use of it. So we're going to just cover some of the transformations that are used to make a component into part of a character as a radical. For example, the character ren, or person, is written in this form, compressed so it'll fit into the block. For this character, ta, which means he, shou, or hand, is simplified to this form to be written in this character, which is la, to pull open using your hand. The character for shui, water, is written very frequently as 3 drops, one of the most common components in all of Chinese characters. So, for example, in this character for river, jiang, 3 drops of water. It's also simplified in 2 drops for ice or frozen. In the character for bing, or ice, the 3 drops of water freeze together, so it makes 2. The character xin, or heart, is written up into this vertical form, simplified in this way to be written in this character, for example, qing, which means feeling, a very common component in characters that have to do with emotions or feelings or volition. The character for fire is often written as 4 dots on the bottom, like flames of fire, as in this character zhu, which means to boil or cook something. Okay, the next set of radicals, the original form, we're getting into some you haven't seen before. The original form isn't so significant, but the transformed form is. So here's the character knife, dao, which is compressed into that shape. You can see just the hung is missing. And it's used in a character like this, for example. It's often on the right-hand side. Li means sharp or benefit. This character means city, pronounced yi. As a component, it's usually called the ear on the right side. You er bian, and it's used, for example, in this character, na, which we'll learn quickly. And this character, fu, originally means some kind of dam, but it is usually called the ear on the left side, zuo er bian, and used in this character, for example, lu, which means mainland or land. So quan this is an archaic word for dog, not used very often except in very formal settings. But as a component, it's written like this and is often used as a radical for the names of animals. For example, in this one, hu, a fox. Foxes in two-character form is called a huli, hu. So you've got this radical, and then this part on the right is phonetic. Right, the next character, s, means silk or fibers, as in silk. Written like this as a component, squeezed together or actually diminished a little bit. So it's used in this character zhi, for example, which means paper. There's s, which means silk. Cao is grass, and you just use the top form of it to mean usually plants. So here, vegetables, cai, has the grass radical at the top. The character jin, money or gold or metal, is simplified in this way. So it's used in this character, for example, to mean silver, yin. This is the character for clothing, and it somewhat represents the folds of a robe. It is written this way with two dots on the right side. That's an important distinction to make because there's a similar one with just one dot. That is used in this character, for example, which means pants, trousers, ku. Now this character is, in its simplified form, is very similar to clothing. This character means to reveal or to show or display. It's associated with rituals and ceremonies and things like that. It only has one dot to the right as opposed to the two dots for clothing, and it's used in characters like this one, li, which means propriety or politeness, and it's often used in characters that have to do with polite interactions between people. The character jade, written sort of funny because it's at the bottom here, with this dot at the end, when it's written as a component, the dot drops off. And it's written in characters like this, ju, which means pearl. It's often used with words for gems or with round things like beads and so on. Ju. This character ju is bamboo, and as a component, it almost always appears at the top in this compressed form, like here in this character bi, which is brush, made from bamboo originally, and hair at the bottom, bi. Hua, fire, just compressed together in some components, like in this one, to explode, zha. And this character, zu, foot, that we've learned before, compressed into this shape so they can fit into the square block to make that character pao, to run. A foot has to do with running. This character here is not actually a character at all. It's a component of a character, meaning a lid or a covering or a roof, as in this example of a house. You've got a roof and a pig. Home is where the pig is. I'll explain that more at another time. And this component also only occurs as a character to represent itself. Pronounced chuo, having to do with movement. You can see it is very similar to the character for foot in some ways. And it is used in a character like this. This part is a head. You can see the headdress of someone, his eye here, so that's the head, going down a road, moving. That's the character Dao, the way, the road, the path. The Dao De Jing starts with that Dao. So we've given you a lot of components, a lot of information, but these are the building blocks of the writing system of Chinese, and if you learn these building blocks, it'll help you as we move through learning the writing system.